How's it going? We have a nice sized group today. I'm so excited. Nice to see you all. All right. As a reminder, these Ask CASA sessions are always recorded. So we're recording right now so that we can post this on our YouTube channel for any of our volunteers or community members who want to watch this presentation over. But first off, just want to thank you all, excuse me, for being here this afternoon. And I want to thank and introduce today's presenter. We have Dr. Tasia Cerezo from Meryl Safe Haven. She is the founder of Meryl Safe Haven. And what they do there is they focus on adolescents who have transitioned out of foster care and are looking to kind of start their lives on their own. Meryl Safe Haven has a shelter, but they also provide some life skill building and supports around that as well. So very excited to have her here with us today. She has slides that she will share. We'll have time for questions at the end of the presentation. And then as always, I will send a follow-up email with the resources that Tasia shared with us so that we all can circle back if we would like to. All right, I will pass it on over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So if you would like, we can jump right into the presentation. I'll start by answering what tends to be one of the big questions when I'm presenting is who was Meryl? I'll talk about that a little bit, but as we're getting prepared here, as I don't see the presentation just yet, uh, is Meryl was my aunt. Even got that question yesterday as I was connecting with the mailman. It's like, I like to talk to people and introduce myself, but also know them by name. You're a regular guy, so who are you? As we got into discussion, he's like, but you're not Meryl. And I'm like, no, I'm not Meryl. Meryl was my aunt. I lost Meryl in a 2022 fatal car crash. And a discussion that I had with her prior to her passing, although she wanted to be an adoptive parent, she never got the opportunity to do so. Myself, I am a pre-adoptive slash foster parent. I have adopted 3 young people out of the foster care system. My twins just turned 4 on July 19th, and my daughter is 7. Had my boys since they were 3 days old, and my daughter since she was 9 months old. So I'm very familiar with the system. And I had many discussions with Meryl prior, again, to her passing of that road. But mainly, I asked her, did she know how difficult it would be to start such a program, not just to be a foster parent, where her passion was to create something somewhere, anything for young people where they could feel safe and have a bit of a haven. And in her honor, her legacy, I created Meryl Safe Haven. So again, I'll talk a bit more about that.
Do the
I'm,
slides look okay on your end? I'm
it
having
does.
some difficulties with the which screen it's popping up on, so I just want to make sure everyone can see them.
Better you than me. So it looks fine on my end. I hope everyone can see it. I'll go through these relatively quickly so that there's time for questions at the end. We'll go to the next. All right, so today we're going to go through some of my introduction, essentially. And I'm sorry about the noise in the background. I have what they call a desk pet. His name is Emo, and he talks to me all the time. So you might hear him. He's a little annoying sometimes. He also looks for me to pet him. So I apologize for the background noise. My introduction, who Meryl Safe Haven is, what we do, what we provide. We are an organization that not just provides support to young people, but we also provide support to families in need of shelter. And I'll dive a bit into our process as it relates to submitting referrals and our numbers as they stand. So I gave this information a bit already. This is what brought us here in some ways. This is our about us. Again, my aunt was Meryl, and I created this organization in her memory. The basis of our why and mission and vision, as we're going to go to that slide next, that we'll be able to skip now, is that we were created to provide a safe space and resources for young people aging out of the foster care system. And our journey to this particular place, and opening the doors for young people as they transition out of foster care system. As we know, even last year, the funds have always been tight when it relates to programs. One of the main things that I didn't want to do is lean heavily into dollars as it relates to working with the DCF system. And so as we got to this place of opening the doors in October, doing our ribbon cutting and beginning to place our first participants, what we focused on is our family shelter that allowed us to get to this place. And in some ways, having it to carry this program as young people get settled in. And I'll talk a bit more about our model. So how do we get here? A bit more about us as an organization. As we became an official 501(c)(3) in 2023, our first introduction to the city of Worcester and the work that we do, again, as we built our resources to open our youth program, is that we were the safety net providers. And so for folks who might not know, the safety net was a statewide program that they considered to be pre-shelter and provided support to families who are in transition and preparing to get into the emergency assistance family shelter. And so for that, we were able to house many families in just a year's time. We are also an organization that has a emergency assistance shelter by way of congregate and scattered sites, and then our youth programming that provides support to young people between the ages of 18 and 24. What does that look like? So we have built our youth program in some ways on the model that uh, replicates what we provide to our families in shelter. What we know for sure is that a young person who is not focused on their basic needs by way of having housing, somewhere to eat, somewhere to take a shower, they're more likely to focus on what comes next for them. So our program was built on that awareness. We like to make sure that we're working with young people and families alike to make sure they have all documentation, permits, license. They become a bit more financially savvy. We help them to identify and work through the workforce and identify workforce development opportunities while considering education. For some folks, education is not a passion of theirs, but is there a trade that they might be interested in? So we help them to navigate all of those things while also ultimately helping them to identify permanent housing. Some folks ask me, how did I get to this place? We can go to the next slide. One of the major things is I also like to inform people, my doctorate is in higher education. And so what I got to do is work directly with first generation students as a college advisor. I worked a lot with TRIO programming. So my experience in especially the community college sector has helped me to really have conversations with young people as it relates to even articulation agreements and how do you save money when you go to school, if that is an interest of yours. I was also previously the director of the YouthWorks program. For those who know what that is, it is a workforce development opportunity essentially for young people between the ages of 14 and 24. I think it's 5 now, actually. As a part of my role there, not only did we help to create a tier that would focus on the older population of young people, but it ultimately became a tier that would focus on the opportunity to go from the YouthWorks program to an organization or business that would ultimately hire them. So now you have skills, and now you're working with an organization that may say at the end of your experience that they will hire you. So my experience in workforce development has also led me to this place of being able to create this program with elements that also think about career development, and job searching. A bit more about our family shelter before diving into our youth is these numbers here. Again, we're a new and young organization. Actually, I was told I can't say we're new anymore, so I'll say young only. As an organization that became a 501(c)(3) in 2023, people are kind of impressed by our numbers. As an overachiever, I'm not quite there. So I'll tell you a bit about our safety network. Again, we opened those doors January 2024, and we just closed up that program May 2025. It was a pre-shelter. Families were supposed to stay there 5 to 10 days. Not quite the family system that we know. We served over 34 families, over 137 individuals, and all of them have transitioned into other housing. Our congregate shelter is a program that we currently run. Still, we opened those doors April 9th, 2024. And over the course of just, I think I put these numbers in Monday, we have helped over 82 individuals And we have had also 11 families already transition out into permanent housing with others in preparation of doing so. So if you're familiar with the shelter system, ultimately the goal is to ensure families are transitioning out into permanent and safe housing. More about what you actually came here for. Our Transitional Youth Empowerment Program, we started accepting referrals for this program in February 2024. At that time, we hadn't solidified an actual space. And what we realized is there are landlords who wanted to know more about our population than we were willing to share. And so in October 2024, we did an official ribbon cutting for the location that we're at now, and it has worked. This particular location was selected because when you walk in, most people say it feels like home. And that's exactly why it was selected. We wanted to make sure that it was a space that you could walk in the door. There are folks at the front door here to support you and ready to ask you questions and guide you along the way. So we began applications in November 2024. To date, we have had 25 referrals. I actually got another one in today, so I guess I can't say to date anymore. 26 referrals as of today, and placements began March 2025, where we took our first young person in. To join our program, you must be between the ages of 18 and 24. You have to currently be a part of the system or transitioning out of the system, or you have to be in the place that you are preparing to transition out in the sense of making that final decision of whether you want to continue your support. We know ongoing caseworkers or managers, social workers stick around for a little bit, and some of our young people have come in still with that support, and then a month, 2 months later, they are out of the system for good. They get their last YAS payment or so, and they feel like they're on their way. You have to be sober, you have to be motivated. There are expectations of this program that they're expected to meet on a daily basis. We do run background checks, and so no violent history or record. Of course, we can take these things on a case-by-case basis, and we do engage in conversation as we receive referrals for a young person after we get to that step of intake and running a background check. They can be housed. And so if there's a young person who is looking for just to be in community and looking for the resources that we provide by way of work development, career exploration, all of those things, they can come in during our open hours, which are 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., and still receive similar support as the folks who are here. If they are looking for shelter, they have to be homeless or at risk of becoming homeless to qualify for that part of programming. So a bit of our data. These numbers only refer to referrals, not the actual young people in which we have conducted intakes with who also might be placed with us. So this is anyone who submits a form to us and say, hey, I have a young person who I think will be a good fit or is in need. We do not provide support, again, to young people who are under the age of 18, but we have received 2 referrals for 17-year-olds, and unfortunately, we have to turn them away. As you can see, between our 18 and 20-year-olds, that is our higher level of referrals as an applicants that come in. When we first started this process, we appeared to be on about the 1921 age, and then that shifted, especially as we began to place young people, which is amazing to me. These are numbers by gender. Again, still referring only to referrals that are submitted to us, not the actual intakes that happen. Um, so we have, strangely enough, a higher number of females being referred to us, but in our shelter, we have a higher number, our program, we have a higher number of males. And I would add that although someone can submit the referral on behalf of a young person can submit a referral for themselves. And these are self-identifying items. If there's no no information or identifier put in those spaces. We put unknown or prefer not to answer, but they are allowed to put this information in and share it with us. And then I say, didn't we do by gender? A bit of what we've learned in this process so far is that over 50% of our referrals have come through DCF. And to me, that's a big number because when I did our first presentation, before we opened our doors to place a single young person, I was on another call in which DCEF folks were on that call, and they said that they did not simply need our services, that our program was not necessary, especially in the city of Worcester. Uh, Fast forward today, we have someone from the adolescent unit who often comes in to help young people with the resources that they have, the dollars that they have to help them to get computers, to get their license. So we have developed a relationship with the folks, especially in the adolescent unit, to help our young people continue to thrive, especially where they're eligible for things from DCF. Many young people, often, especially early in this process, they would not show up for the intake, even if transportation was provided. And so while we were getting referrals from folks saying, I think this would be a good fit for a young person, they just weren't at that place yet. And what we're seeing as a part of that as well, as we have placed young people and have been working with them, a lot of the times what we're hearing from a young person themselves is that I'm finally free. And it was something a young person once sent me as he decided to transition out of the program, and I didn't understand it. And then I had it happen again. And having a conversation with them directly, they feel like they're no longer being taken from place to place, family to family, organization to organization, where here, because we consider this a true transitional program, we're providing them some baseline of this is what you're expected to do. We're going to be here alongside of you, but you're expected to drive. And so while we're saying to them, especially from the hours of 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., Monday through Friday, which we consider to be our productivity hours, you are expected to look for a job. You're expected to do homework, or you're expected to apply to school, something that is productive. If you're going to the grocery store, do a budget beforehand. We're expecting them to start adulting. And for some of them, it's a bit challenging, even with someone sitting next to them. And so now they feel like we have had young people come in and we're having this discussion prior to their arrival of any medications that they may be taking. How do we provide support? We are not med certified, but we can provide reminders. And we ask, are they compliant? Will we have any challenges? No, 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 never that. They can take the medication. They have no problems. They are not adverse to it. And then the second part of also what we're seeing related to freedom is I don't have to take this medication anymore. And now, as a program and organization, we're in this middle space of how do we help them to navigate this road of adulthood from I'm not interested in taking medication to what's safe. So we're seeing a variety of things, and especially with young people feeling like they're overly medicated, starting to do real evaluations and conversations with young people as we open our doors. One of the things that really stuck out to me after they're transitioning from foster care or from another program or group home, the main thing that comes up as why do you want to be here or how is it going here? One of the biggest levels of feedback we're hearing is it just feels good to have someone to sit and listen to me, not just tell me what to do, but actually hear me out and allow me to make some decisions. And so that, again, that part of freedom where we're finding that it is becoming, for some of them, very difficult to settle in as part of our experiences. Some of our youth, as we're doing background checks again, criminal histories, depending on the level of offense, they're not eligible for this program, especially violence. We're finding that some of our early referrals that were submitted, especially of young women, they now have children. And so as a part of our second layer of work is we can't accept you into this program, but we're looking into the community to see what other programs like Luck, right, who might have an opportunity for a young person with their child to still receive that support because we understand the importance of reunification as well if the child has been removed from the household. Some young people, again, as the referrals aren't typically directly from them, they're indicating that they no longer need the services. But the social worker or the program that they came from, we're often hearing, yes, they still do, but I'm not sure why they're afraid to move forward with it. Some young people are also having challenges with just following the expectations. One of the major things for us and why we have our age limit or requirement of 18 plus is that they can legally consent to the expectations of the program. You understand that we will provide you support. You are expected to engage in certain activities. One of our main activities that are required is group reflection. On Wednesday nights, we have a clinician to come in and have a conversation with them as a group of what's going on. Express your frustrations. How are things going? How can we be a better support? And I personally, even though I have great relationships with all participants, I step out of those conversations so they can feel like they have an open and honest dialogue with someone who is not impacted by their words, their actions, and they don't believe that there will be any repercussions from that. But it's an opportunity to build community, but to also, again, release frustrations. It's really therapy, but we don't tell them. And so it's working. It's working. Again, I mentioned this before, many are taking medications in which they want to stop. And so we're also building relationships with every department possible, especially public health, mental health, to figure out what can we do to provide support? What are the next steps? If they are at that place in which they don't want to take their medication or they just don't know its impact, how can we help them to navigate that and understand that? And then this was more of an early on, it felt a bit like a group home. After most people do the tour with us, I personally do the tours with young people, they don't feel that anymore. And so for the young people that are here, of course, they're still, well, you have rules. Everywhere has rules. Whether you like it or not, I have to follow rules as well. And so that group home feeling really melts away for a lot of them after we're able to have them on site for the tour and have a discussion with them. So how might you submit a referral? Very easily. You can go to our website. And so our merylsafehaven.org website has all of our materials and it's under our services. At the bottom of that particular screen, there's an image of two teens or two young people in which I have hid very intentionally because if you have questions, I want you to send us an email. Our referral. If you send an email, I'll also respond to that and I can send them a referral as well. But you can download it there, you can print it or complete it, and you can send it to the email address that's on the form. Chances are when you submit that form, it's still going to come to me. After the referral is submitted, again, likely for me, it will be acknowledged as received. And then someone from the staff will contact you, the referrer, within 24 to 48 hours. The first line is, again, to speak to the person who submitted the referral. What we're trying to find out is, what is your relationship with this young person? What do you know about them? Again, not knowing or becoming aware, especially of young people taking medication in which they can use support for, is a hard thing, not just for them as they're settling in, but it's difficult for my staff if they don't know. It's difficult for me because we're recognizing that the person that we interviewed with and did an intake with a couple days in, they're not the same person. And so seeing this now a couple times, having that separate conversation with a young person, have you been taking your medication? Sometimes it's an easy one and sometimes it's not so much, but it is clear when there is something missing. And having to have that conversation and talk about what's next for them, even if they're at a place where they don't want to take their medication anymore, is trying to understand how to best support them. So, what do you know in a way that doesn't cross any medical information lines, but will allow us to provide the best support? After that, we will contact the young person directly to have a conversation with them. And then based on that conversation, we'll schedule a time for them to come in to do an intake and to do a tour. After that process, we will run a background check. Of course, we need permission to run the background check. And so we want to make sure that we have that discussion with them. We have the intake form, and then we can run that background check and get back in contact with them. Background checks tend to take 1 to 3 days. And that is me. Um, you can always send me an email if you have any additional questions. One of the things that I also created is a program guide. So in addition to outlining these steps for someone who is interested in learning more about what the process could be, it is something that can be shared with a young person as well, so they understand the rules and expectations before they walk through the door. As I said to young people, there is no bait and switch here. You are here voluntarily, and if you decide to walk out that door, my staff will not stop you. No one will ever put their hands on you. They will provide you any support, any information that you need, and ensure that you do so, whatever your decision is, very safely. So that is the presentation I have for you today.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. As I mentioned, I will share the slides. I think you had previously sent me a brochure and a copy of the referral so that you all can just have it directly.
Yep.
So I'll share that in a follow-up email. And yeah, does anyone have any questions or comments while we're on this call?
I've really enjoyed this. I'm dealing with a child now that is about to age out in December, and there's a good deal of concern about, what is going to happen. So this has been fascinating, and I really look forward to looking more closely at your material and in speaking with you. So thank you for an excellent presentation.
Absolutely. I will make sure that, again, you also have the guide. I was doing finishing touches, frequently asked questions on it. So I'll share that as a part of the materials that goes out as well. I would say one of the things is, sorry, additional things, if you're looking at any of our materials, or if you have any questions of have you thought about, my background is education, research, definitely working with this population. If there are things in which the organization can look at and do differently, we're still open to that as we continue to evolve. We believe in having direct conversations with our participants to say what's working, what isn't working, and making adjustments as we go along. There's nothing here that is set in stone because we don't want things to be more challenging for them or for staff than they need to be. So if you also have feedback, please feel free to share it.
I did have a question. So earlier you mentioned that you had, I believe, two 17-year-olds who were referred or had applied,
Mhm.
and you were probably put in a very unfortunate situation to turn them down. And with CASA working with youth, at what point would a referral get to you and it could set them up as soon for success as soon as they turn 18?
So I would say, to not have to send that unfortunate email, even if they are a month out, maybe even, the fewer the better, but a month out is an opportunity for us to say, let's consider this. We can start the process. We can't officially run a background check and they can't sign any documentation until they're 18. But if you're a month away from that 18th birthday, we can start that process. We can see if they're a good fit for the program. And for them, it's not just for us. We believe in, hey, do you feel like this will work for you? So we can have those conversations early. We want to make sure that if the goal is to transition to the program, that we do have an open bed. I think a piece here that will be important too is we have a capacity of 12 at this point, and we have 6 youth placed with us currently. We have one young person who already has a apartment voucher that is looking to transition out, but we have in any given day a capacity of 12.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
You may have already covered this and I might have just missed it, but how long would a person typically be at Meryl's Safe House?
You can be here as long as you need to. So the Safe Havens program goes into the age of 24. So by the age of 24, you will have to transition out. But at this point, of course, continue to do evaluation. I think one of the biggest challenges, and I say this even as an educator, is that the expectation is that we're all at the same place at a particular age. Everyone has had different traumas along the way. And so our goal is to put a timeline into place that they're so focused on that exit date that they can't stay in the present. So you can enter today and you feel like you have yourself all ready to go tomorrow, we're going to prepare you for that transition. Or you can come in today and you can say, hey, my goal is to transition within 2 months, and we're also going to prepare you for that. There is no exit date when you come in. This isn't family shelter in that way.
Thank you.
A quick question. I'm working with a youth who is just turning 17, but I see down the pike that there will be some challenges. And she has a lot of special needs. And like I said, she's presently 17, but might have an ability at a much younger level. What kind of resources do you have for kids like that?
So we're not completely, I'm going to say, I wouldn't say prepared, but trained, right, for individuals with special needs. What we look for, though, is what resources are they currently connected to? Because if we can still build a village or a community around that young person and they have the people that they go to, and we can come in as a trusted system as well, as long as we know how to provide support, we're willing to provide support. So it is not an abilities thing, it's how do we ensure that they're successful? When everyone is, again, moving at their own pace, we don't want them to also feel like they're behind or lagging. I would give an example of a young person who started with us, who is no longer in the program. Couple of things. He wanted to, one, stop taking his medication. As the person that he connected to, and that person being me, when I was out of office, he really struggled with listening and operating with staff, alongside staff. And so not only was it difficult for him, but it was also difficult for staff to help him to manage himself. And so when we have a system, a community of folks who can help us to help them, it becomes that much easier. But it is not, I would say, with the exception of physical disability, because there's multiple levels of stairs, there isn't a ability or inability that we don't necessarily help, as long as we know the resources that they need.
I know you mentioned staff. Do you have any volunteer opportunities?
We're always looking for volunteers for a variety of things. I think a lot of our young people like to connect with folks. We look for mentorship opportunities. We are folks who want to mentor, helping them to budget. That's an important thing. Even their SNAP benefits, trying to remind them that it is not guaranteed forever. How do you make do with what you have? We have young people who are interested in things just like cosplay, especially when they know someone who has come out of the DCF system. They are really interested in working with them. And some of it is just resources. I have become like a parent here, where on any given day, anything I say to them, it just goes right through. But they also know if I'm just disappointed with them on that day, and they stay clear with me. They stay clear of me. So I think the opportunities that we're trying to bring folks into is just getting to build relationships. If someone has the time, those trusting relationships, we know they work. They really just work, right? And that's why you guys are CASA advocates, right? Because when you're able to build that relationship with them, they will also just tell you what kind of resources that they're looking to tap into. But for us, we look at mentorship, we look at training opportunities, folks who can help them to navigate adulthood.
I know we have thought up of a few volunteers who could support Meryl's Safe Haven, and we sent Tasia their information. So if any of you feel like, you're being called to step up and support them in that way as well, please feel free to reach out, and you'll have her contact information as well. Any other questions or comments? Okay, wonderful. And anything else from you, Tasia?
I would say no. I mean, what you see really is what you get. There, as I mentioned, there are expectations. Ultimately, it is helping them to transition. We don't want this to be a forever home for them, but we want them to know that they can survive. I think one of the most important pieces that when we talk about transition, one of the things I say to young people, I'm as happy to have you here as I will be when you go, because when you go, that means we have done our part. And after they transition out, they can also continue to call us. Just as sure as we're here, they can come here. So I think that's one of the most important pieces as well. Most folks say, well, what happens when they leave? They can still contact us. It is not, we've done our part, we'll see you in another lifetime. It's if something comes up, if we're the only people that you can call, you should call us, especially if we're the people that are between you and possibly being on the side of the road. We want to make sure that we continue to develop that relationship. So I'm always happy to provide more information and answer any questions that you have about the program.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. You all will see she also contributed to our CASA Connection blog. So there's more information on there as well if you want to read up on that. I'll send the follow-up email with the slides, all of the resources that we discussed. And like we keep saying, if anyone has any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. But thank you so much, Tasia. We appreciate you and all of the amazing work that you guys are doing over at Meryl's Safe Haven. And yeah, we're just excited to keep growing this relationship in between our two organizations.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Thanks for spending your lunch with me. If this is your lunchtime, I hope it was worth it.
You're on our community resource guide too, so.
Yeah, you sure are.
Thank you.
Thank you.